Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inside Game podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, this episode is in association with Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn Castleblaney. And here's a word from Ray's Tanning and Wellness in Auchnachoy.
Rays are the first on the island of Ireland to offer the Red Wave Pure Red Light Therapy Bed, a cutting-edge recovery tool now being used by top athletes worldwide. Whether it's muscle soreness, inflammation, joint stiffness or speeding up overall recovery, red light therapy is becoming a genuine game changer. So if you're training hard, coming back from a knock or just wanting to stay injury free, call into Rays and experience the benefits for yourself. Rays Tanning and Wellness, helping athletes recover faster, perform better and stay in the game.
Welcome everyone to the Inside Game podcast. Please remember folks to give the Inside Game a like, a follow, a subscribe or a share on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and Spotify. It really does help to keep the podcast coming. So episode number 26, and today it's a pleasure to welcome on a man who you've possibly seen on social media or around the grounds or maybe even bought a jersey from him, and that is Gaelic Mystery Kit's very own Stephen Henry. So Stephen, you're welcome on the show. How's it going?
Thank you guys, pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
Good man. Stephen, you're a Derry man who's now living in Derry Trasna, County Armagh, and as you put it, you're putting the Derry in Derry Trasna.
Yeah.
But look, it's Derry. It's Derry who's becoming.
You can have that for free. I said.
Well, look, it's Derry who's coming to Athletic Grounds this weekend to get round one of the All Ireland series underway against Armagh, and we're going to talk about that game a little bit later. But before we do, look, if anyone lays eyes on this and they see your face and they wonder where you know you're from, it's probably from Gaelic Mystery Kit's social media. So look, over time you've managed to build a good brand there, Stephen. You have a big Instagram following now, like over 20,000 or so. Why don't you give us the story of Gaelic Mystery Kits and how it came to be and what you're currently doing with it and so on?
Yeah, no worries. So we're up and running from January 2023. So my background is I'm a primary school teacher, so I've been juggling Gaelic Mystery Kits along with part-time teaching this past year or so. Just the idea came from a friend of mine, Kieran. The two of us got each other one of the soccer versions of the mystery box, and we really liked the fun unboxing, the element of the surprise, and the enjoyment of you didn't know what you were going to get. And I just the cogs started turning in my head, and I was like, surely we could do something with Gaelic jerseys. Like, I think Gaelic jerseys by design are much nicer than most soccer jerseys. And they have a real story to tell, that obviously with local parishes, and then obviously if your county teams, there's fun with all the rivalry that you have. And then even like I remember going down to Drummondtown during the summer camps, and at the very end of the week, everyone was saying, "Can I swap my jersey with you?" So I really thought like we're not always just wearing our own county's jerseys. Sometimes you'd see kids running around in all different types, and I just kind of wanted to tap into that. And then as I learned more about it, discovered there were so many Gaelic teams outside of Ireland, and wanted to find out their stories. Like, we had a video series called Thursday Jersey, where we featured a jersey every week for about a year or so, and that was lovely, getting to know different teams and contacts from around the world, and it obviously helped me build up a really good catalog of jerseys for our customers. So like the website's going from strength to strength, so it's GaelicMysteryKits.com. Like you said, you see my face on social media a lot. That's where our advertising is. That's where our best place is to be, I think. And getting on match days and meeting supporters who are potential customers. That's the hope anyway. So you have to make the most of the championship season, especially now it's so short.
Well, it also as well, Stephen, you're putting some nice sort of games and things together at some of the ground to see some of the stuff on social media, like you're bringing fans together and they're answering questions and stuff. So that's a nice sort of touch you're getting, as you say, you're getting around the grounds and sort of engaging with your potential customers and things there.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's nerve-wracking, don't get me wrong. Like, it's there's a lot of outtakes, and what you don't see behind all the editing. It takes a certain kind of person to come up to you to do a game, and there are definitely some characters who maybe should stay off screen, but sometimes that's you never really know what the algorithm is going to spit out, and sometimes it's those fun characters that you meet on the street is what's going to push the numbers and kind of get it to a wider audience. So you have to take that gamble sometimes. You don't know who you're going to interview.
Yeah.
So it's good crack.
Good. Stephen, as we mentioned already about putting the Derry and Derry Trasna, you're indeed a Derry man who you found love, and you swapped the northwest shore of Lough Neagh for the south shore. But
right, yeah.
as we all know, in the world of Gaelic games, the affinity with your club it's always with you, even if you have to move away from it. So, tell us a wee bit about your club, Ballymcguigan. There are maybe some of the big characters in it over the years, and where the club's at the minute.
Yeah, so Ballymcguigan is, like you said, we're on the Lough Shore, just South Derry club. So Ballymcguigan is very similar to Derry Trasna here. We're straight road through. All other roads lead to the Lough Neagh. Although we don't have a chapel, we do have a shop as well. So coming to Derry Trasna, you're moving up in the world, because now there's a primary school, a shop, a football pitch, and a chapel. So it's very cosmopolitan. Coming here, but it's Ballymcguigan. They were junior for a while. They're back up in intermediate. I played most of my career with them at intermediate level, and we kind of just were that in between stage where we were a very team. And we kind of flirted with senior for a while, but just it's a very small catchment area, and it's hard to sustain those numbers, And
Eamon Coleman would that be Eamon's club, yeah?
Yeah, Eamon Coleman, yes. So I got to play with Gary, his son.
Yes.
Gary he played for Markerfelt for many years, and then whenever he built a house, he moved out and joined Ballymcguigan. And he was in his mid-30s. Like you all would probably know him playing for Derry as a halfback or a cornerback, but he played full forward for us, and he was, he was amazing. And it was great to learn from him. Like I was coming through as a teenager playing cornerback, fullback, and I was getting a mark of in training. And he still had so much guile and craft, and you're learning off that, and he was top scorer, in the league year after year, well into his 30s. So it was brilliant to get the opportunity to play with him. And I do remember we won the league. You mentioned Eamon, the late Eamon Coleman. I remember we were playing for Glen in the league final, and I was playing half back, and I got the ball marauding up the field, excited, and overcooked a pass to Gary, and you could hear the crowd shouting and roaring. I looked over, and it was Eamon giving me both barrels. So got the hairdryer treatment from him, but it was great. We also won an intermediate championship just maybe the year or two before Sarsfields won theirs, and then we kind of plateaued at that level for a while. Whereas I know Sarsfields then kind of kicked on from winning that intermediate in 2010. So it was a big step up moving from Ballymcguigan to Sarsfields. It also was difficult to leave your home club behind. You never really envisaged that you were ever going to be doing that. You're born into it, and that's really it. But I suppose whenever I moved down here and I was traveling up to North Derry for matches and stuff like that, it wasn't easy. You lost most of your Sunday. You maybe were given the commitment of like a county player for intermediate football in Derry. I don't know. But then the other kind of thing was you didn't want to be just a blow-in the whole time. You wanted to kind of make friends and get to know people in the community. And I thought that was the easiest step to take to do that. And I haven't regretted it at all since I made the decision to join Sarsfields. So it's all good.
Well, that's a nice segue into the next question here, Stephen. The Inside Game podcast it's on episode 26, but you'll have to go all the way back to episode number 2 for the last time I got a chance to talk about my young club. And I brought on Eamon McGeown to talk about the successful 2025 Intermediate Championship winning season. So look, I'm glad to get talking about the club here. And you moved away from your own club, Ballymcguigan, Stephen, and joined Sarsfields. Originally, you joined as a player, and now, just like myself, you're involved in underage coaching. You're playing dads and lads. You're part of organising tournaments and things there. So, but I want to ask, what's it like joining another club? Like sort of being adopted by another club, I suppose, and getting involved in the running of things. Like, did you find it welcoming?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's daunting at the start. You're making that decision, blindly to go join a club. But I have to say, I couldn't feel more welcome at Sarsfields, and now, like, we have children playing for the club, and I remember taking them down, and Farah, who you know very well, said, can you step in there and stand at that cone and do this and do that? And then I got the text message from him later on that evening to say, trains at 6 o'clock next week, just to give you enough time to get your drills ready. And then that was it. You were an underage coach. But yeah, it's been really welcoming. Like you said, started as a player, got a taste for playing for the seniors. I told them I was a half forward whenever I started. I played cornerback my entire life for Ballymcguigan, and lo and behold, the first game I ever started was against Crossmaglen in cornerback, because the soon found out that I couldn't shoot any better on the south side of the loch than I could in the north. So that's great. And then obviously, yourself, we're playing dads and lads now together, and that's a whole other community that we've kind of stepped into, and I find that really enjoyable. It's not the same pressures of commitment that you need for training 2 or 3 nights a week. You can go and you get the enjoyment of it, and even we taste the silverware that we got against the lads and the Peters there a couple of weeks ago. It was great. It was the first bit of silverware I'd won. So the community's fantastic. They really are. Really welcoming, and like I said, I've never have regretted my decision to join one day, so it's all good.
Just a shout out and a thank you to Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney, for the continued support of the podcast. If you're ever in Castleblaney, or even if you're not, why not visit the Old Coach Inn for a fine dining experience and entertainment in their friendly bar and lounge. That's in the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney.
Stephen, we'll move it into the Armagh and Derry side of things here. Derry, we'll talk about Derry first. Showed a lot of promise in the league. 5 wins out of 7. They beat Tyrone and they hammered Cork. And amongst that, narrowly missed out in Division 1 promotion. And then the crazy championship game against Monaghan. So, what have you made of Derry's season so far then?
I mean, there's definitely positivity to take out of, like you said, the league form. Derry hadn't won a competitive match in so long. Last year it was quite grim after that taste of success, winning the 2 Ulsters in the past few years. So it was a real surprise, and obviously a lot of managerial changes, and some of them didn't work out. But I think having Kieran Mina in there, who knew the team, a lot of the same players are still there. They seem to be gelling together in the league, and then probably missing out on the promotion maybe dented them a wee bit, and then starting off against Antrim, you'd always fancy them against Antrim, so maybe it wasn't a tough enough test, although they did run them close at the beginning before Derry I don't really think they were at a second or third gear, to be honest. But Monaghan, I'm still having nightmares of Rory Began and sideline 2-pointers, and was it a 2-pointer, and did he break the line? And it's frustrating. Like, listen, to be fair, Derry should never have let Monaghan into the game. The game should have been put to bed, professionally. Like, Monaghan never should have had a sniff of it. But look how they ran Armagh close in the Ulster final as well. So it's so hard to know. I'm sure Derry's kicking themselves after giving up that winning position. So hopefully, as a supporter, I'm kind of hoping that they've really knuckled down into a training camp and have Armagh in their sights. Like, what that means going to athletic grounds again, where they just lost to Armagh, who are going to be on the crest of a wave, having won Ulster. like they're obviously going to be the favourites. They're at home. It's not an easy place to go at the best of times, but there's always a chance. I'm always hopeful.
There's always a chance. Well, look,
That's
you,
it.
you kind of touched on it, Stephen, but Derry, they were a top team not that long ago.
Mhm.
Ulster winners in 22 and 23, and then like Armagh played Donegal in the Division Two League final in Croke Park in 2024, and as part of the double header, Derry played Dublin in the Division
Mhm.
One final. And honestly, on the day, Stephen, the Division One game looked like it was on a whole other level. And
Yeah.
Derry ended up winning on penalties. They looked
Mhm.
really formidable that day and throughout the whole league. But whatever happened, like come championship time, the whole thing sort of derailed. They were beat well by Donegal, Galway, and then Armagh. And as you've already said it, I looked at a list of the players in that league winning team compared to now, and there's not really a big difference in personnel. Most of them are
Mhm.
still there. So look, is there still a hope that this group of players can get back to those heights, or is it maybe a case of waiting until the sort of successful period of minor teams, in recent times sort of start coming through?
It's it's a tough one to call because Derry are still relying, like Derry starting 15 to me would go toe to toe with most of teams in all the teams in Ulster and most teams in Ireland. That Dublin victory you're talking about, it was such an exhibition of football. It was great to see, and then it just kind of fell away from that. I suppose tellingly they played Monaghan in extra time, and they almost reverted back to the same starting 15 for extra time because you know maybe they're struggling to get those minors and under 20s kind of gelled into the team there. I mean, there are still some cracking young players that are coming through. Getting Owen McAvoy back on the pitch is great. You see Lachlan Murray becoming more consistent as well. And then you have people like Conor McCluskey coming back. He was out all of last year, and like it's hard to go without an All Star. He won an All Star
Hmm.
a couple of years ago in cornerback, and Derry need those bodies on the pitch. Um, and hopefully, if they have them all um, firing and with a bit of fire in their belly and with a point to prove, like especially those older lads that you're saying that have still been there for a couple of years. I know how people are talking. They are saying that that group of lads is now starting to age, but I'm hoping it's like a fine wine. It's like they're maturing, and hopefully there's still another good campaign in this group of lads because they deserve success. They're a great bunch of lads. I've met a couple of them over the years. Doing the social media work and stuff, and they're all down to earth and hardworking and a talented bunch of Derry. I always feel like they always have had really talented footballers. Like Owen Bradley's and Paddy Bradley, for example. And it was just great to see a group of lads get over the line. Winning Ulster twice, like it was fantastic. Like I hadn't experienced Clonus as an adult. That it was going way back to the 90s before I even remember how we were successful. So that was really really enjoyable to get that wee taste, and you'd love to see it again. And we had a what you would have thought was the decent side of the draw with facing Antrim and then the winners of Monaghan and Cavan. Cavan haven't been or Monaghan have been relegated and stuff. So you were hoping another Ulster final was on the cards, but it just wasn't to be. So we'll see how we go here on Saturday and take it
Well,
from there.
Stephen, you're living in amongst Armagh folk now, so I would imagine you're sort of well clued in on most things Armagh now. But
Hmm.
as you know, Armagh have just recently won the Ulster title, and they've had three fairly high scoring wins there along the way, sort of scoring a lot even, and they're doing it really
Hmm.
without even scoring 2 pointers. But look, what have you made of Armagh's campaign then, Ulster wise?
I feel like they have been very impressive, and I think Tyrone gave them that shock. I think they were Armagh were the clear favourites that day, and Tyrone bringing them to the extra time. Really give them that injection that they needed to realize, okay, this championship's not going to be easy one. And then obviously down, you know, it was really going to be. You always assumed it would be Armagh and Donegal in that semi-final, and everybody would have talked like, oh, that would have been the real Ulster final.
Mm.
But Down pulled off an amazing shock, and then obviously Armagh saw what happened to Donegal, and they really made sure that that was not going to happen to them. I was in Clonus that day. They were very, very impressive, very professional. They just Down looked like they just did not know what to do. Armagh's game plan was just snuffed them out. They were, and that would be my worry for against Derry. Like you'd mentioned how free scoring Armagh are. At times Monaghan could have drove the team bus through the middle of the Derry defence in the semi-final. So I really hope that they can work. They've been working on that, and when Derry won those 2 Ulster championships, that was a hallmark of their playing was how excellent they were in defence and building from defence. With Conor Glass, he does a lot of unseen work. As a defensive midfielder, I feel. And he likes Conor Doherty, and who, when they get the ball from deep, they're fantastic to see going up the pitch. So it's going to be tough. Armagh are just coming along nicely, and winning silverware and getting that monkey off their backs of winning Ulster finally. They're going to be coming in with such confidence, and they've nothing to prove really, in my opinion. So it's going to be a really, really tough ask for Derry to get up to that standard. But again, like I said to you, Monaghan took us to extra time. Monaghan brought Armagh to the same. So, if Derry can match that intensity from the beginning, it's hard to know. It's a really hard one to call.
Totally. Look, so far the stats say that there's a 100% losing record for provincial winners in their next game in the All Ireland series. So
Like
Armagh will be hoping to buck that trend. Another interesting stat is that ever since penalty kicks became a way of settling these games, Armagh have lost every penalty shootout, and Derry have won every penalty shootout that they've been involved in. So when you factor in those two things, personally speaking, even though Armagh will be favourites, I'm fully expecting a very tough battle, tight game, and Derry are very much in with a good chance of winning this one. So I'm sure you'd agree, Steve. The Derry, they're not going to be too far away here.
No, I think they're in the top. They're definitely in the top 8 to 10 teams in Ireland, I think, and if you remember, like Armagh were like that whenever they won the All Ireland as well. They went through a patch where they didn't seem to be able to get over the line, like you said, with penalties and an extra time, and it looked like that group of lads, like the likes of Stephen Campbell and stuff, who's now stepped away from the team. Like all of those lads, they were going to be the nearly men, and then all of a sudden they came to the fore and have won the All Ireland, and that's given them the confidence, because obviously last year when we played Armagh, I saw your footage that you had shared with the few goals, the 3 goals, and those Armagh forwards really have an eye for goal, and when they smell blood in the water, they go for it. So that's always my fear, but I am confident that we will give them as good as they want, and I would say Armagh are definitely the favourites, but I wouldn't count Derry out at all. I hope not anyway. That's the supporter in me, but also, if it was a neutral, I would still be backing them in with a really good chance.
Well, there's some top footballers there in Derry. I would say if someone offered me the chance of picking a player in Ulster to take from them and put on the Armagh team, I probably would go for Shane McGuigan. I think he's just a fantastic forward, great left foot, great scoring and great movement. So, between him and a few others, the talent is definitely in that team, Stephen.
And he hasn't even hit the same heights that he did a few years ago. And I would love to see him get a real game under his belt, to build his confidence and stuff. And I think he has so much potential with the 2-point arc. When they play him in full forward, I feel like maybe he's missing out on that opportunity. Maybe if he could drift out a wee bit because like you said, he has a really sweet left foot, and it'd be great to see him try a few more 2-pointers. And I think once one of them drops, you know yourself, there's players who really play off confidence, and once if you got the first one, and that could be up and at it at the races, you know, that would be ideal.
Yep. Well, look, we'll probably wrap things up here, Stephen. But as always, I'll ask you for your predictions. So, far away. What do you think? How do you see it going?
Okay. So I'm going to go with my heart over my head. I'm going to go for Derry, but after extra time, and we'll throw penalties in there for a bit of crack. Now we don't have Warren McCluskey or in nets, you know, so that's probably in favour of Armagh, but I would definitely. I'm going to go for Derry after extra time.
Well, if it goes to penalties, then as I said earlier, the favourites, definitely Derry, there who are most likely going to prevail. We just can't seem to get it done, and Derry always do. So, Stephen, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your time, and best luck with Gaelic Mystery Kits and everything else. Thank you, Gary. Absolute pleasure. Really appreciate it. Good man. Thanks, Stephen. All the best.